And now for our main topic today here on Mastering Dungeons, we have a very special guest. We have Alex Kammer, the principal at Gamehole Con and at Gamehole Publishing. Alex, you've been on the show before, so I figured this is our annual check-in a couple weeks before Gamehole. So, but if anyone is new to our show, could you just give a quick rundown on who you are and what you do in the RPG industry?
No, I appreciate that. This is a great time of year for a wellness check on Mr. Kammer, so I appreciate that. Yes, I am the director of Gamehole Con, an annual tabletop convention that we run here in Madison, Wisconsin, that has now become the largest majority RPG convention in the world, which is insane. I can't believe it, but that's where we are. In addition, we have a publishing company that's been around for a little bit, but we're moving it forward more aggressively and making real strides and making bigger products and more interesting things. So we just launched our new website last week. So yeah, I do a lot of freelance design work. In fact, I just got my author copies of the End of Everything, my book that Alan Patrick and I wrote, and I'm just so freaking proud of and delighted that it's ending up in people's hands right now. I'm super excited about that. So yeah, I have toes in various parts of the hobby.
Fantastic. It's great to have you again. Thanks, Alex.
Yeah. Teos, do you want to direct our conversation from here in any particular direction?
We love to have you on for any reason, especially because we're all excited about Gamehole being right around the corner, and we're all preparing. I spent all weekend working on the events I'm running. But we particularly wanted to have you on because in our show notes for the news, we started putting together our news, and we're like, hey, Gamehole Publishing launches Wardens of the East Marches. And then we were thinking about, well, what should we do in the main segment? And we were thinking, well, what if we have Alex on to talk about this? Because Gamehole Publishing launching an organized play campaign, that's pretty cool.
I appreciate it. I hope it is. I think it's going to be really fun. It's been fun so far, and I can't wait to actually have 2025 when we get players seated at tables playing our content. I'm really looking forward to that.
So you're launching an organized play campaign. And the first adventures are at this Gamehole Con?
They will be in 2025. Okay. This is what you'll see is if you're walking through the lobby of Gamehole Con this year, you'll see a Gamehole Publishing booth, and that's what I'll be propped up for most of the time, and I'll be passing out. You referenced, you saw on our site a primer. We have printed copies that we'll be passing out, full color, little digest sized. Shopping tote bags for the dealer hall that hopefully people will find useful. And so I can talk about the organized play program, which I'm super excited about because, we've had a long relationship with Adventures League. Shawn, actually, that's how I met you, 10 years ago or something, when we first got into writing, such a core figure in getting that program off the ground. And, we could talk about Adventures League to the extent, we're interested as to where it is now as opposed to where it was and sort of why I'm doing this. But I think we're in a really good position after running so much organized play and of not only just Adventures League and Dungeons and Dragons, but other rule sets that I think we've got a pretty good sense of what really works, what players are interested in, and how we can make ours really fun and can do some things that a program like Adventures League can't do for size reasons and sort of corporate reasons or whatever those reasons are that we can do that others can't. So I'm really excited about all that.
Yeah, I mean, Teos and I came into the industry through organized play, so it's something that's so dear to us. And we discuss it whenever we can on this show. And, over the years, we've seen the rise and the fall of organized play through Wizards, through various cycles of rules or of leadership or of corporate backing versus not corporate backing. And so it's always interesting to see other parties try to take the most advantage that they can of what organized play can offer. So my question to you is, why now? And what lessons do you think you've learned that you mentioned over those years?
So I guess the first big why is it aligns completely with our core ethos for Gamehole Con, and that is to celebrate this awesome hobby and bring as many people into it as possible to make it accessible and fun. And organized play has been awesome for that, right? I mean, think of all the iterations that you mentioned. So many of us got into public playing with strangers through organized play. And so the very concept of that you could sit down at a table with a sheet and not know anyone else around the table and play D&D is amazing. And so that's sort of as a threshold matter. That's why, because I love it. I've written a ton for organized play over the years. It's been super important to my development as a freelance author, to my development as being a DM. Quite frankly, I've run so many games for Pathfinder and for PFS and then through Adventures League and down the line. So it's important to me personally. But why now specifically? Because Adventures League is, I think it's an understatement to say they're at a crossroads that as what they really are and what they're going to do. You see, for years, the last 3 or 4 years, really the main creators of content for the Adventures League have been Gamehole Con and Baldwin Games. We're the two premier partners that have sections of the Forgotten Realms in which we can write adventures. And so we've created content that we've run at various conventions, Gamehole Con, and then Dave, of course, is doing things at lots of places like Gen Con and Origins and so on. And that's been great. But it's kind of an interesting concept when you step back from it and say, wait a minute, we're writing content for a company to promote their product, and we don't even get to sell it the way we want to sell it. We don't get to do exactly what we want to do with it. We have to get approval for basically writing our own content that we're running at our own show mm-hmm. that we then have to share if we sell anything 50 cents on the dollar with the parent company who has nothing to do with the creation of that product in the first place. So there's that. And because there's just really not much support from the company right now. I think they have other bigger things that they're obviously working on. And, you guys have commented on this over the past year about what's happened with the size of the D&D team. They just don't have the bandwidth to really do a lot with organized play. And that's, and I have now seen our organized play hall, which has been the largest Adventures League hall in the world, decline over the last several years in size, just because we're losing DMs, we're losing player interest. Despite our best efforts, I think our content's great. I think we operate the Adventure League hall at a loss, quite frankly. I really want to make it. I think it's just such an important thing. I want that to be a resource for attendees to come and sit down and play, and you don't have to have a big group to play with. So that's why, I guess, in broad strokes, and because so many friends in the hobby now that are interested in helping with this, and we're going forward full steam and can really do a very the sort of adjectives that are common in the marketplace, like bespoke or whatever, that's what we're going to do. We can do really fun things that we couldn't do for Adventures League in terms of the kind of stuff that players get and the kind of opportunities they'll have, because we don't have Wizards of the Coast or anyone else to answer to. We can just do it on our own.
That's really cool. So and I share a lot of your sentiments around organized play and AL, and we would love for it to have that energy and excitement that it did in the first years, but it clearly hasn't for some time. So I get where you're coming from. I want, for folks who want to know more about Eastern Marches, I don't want to go too long before we share some of that of why folks should be excited about this. So you've seen AL losing some of its fire. You've put together a program that can do things that you couldn't do with AL. Maybe talk us through the Eastern Marches. What's kind of the high level of what this setting campaign is like?
Sure. So while Gamehole Con has been rolling forward, while I've been writing freelance stuff for other publishers, several of the other Gamehole guys and myself have been writing content for it was, Gamehole Publishing, but we were creating our own setting called the Eastern Marches, and we were locating our adventures in this setting as it's collaboratively grown. And Ed Greenwood has written a few things for us, and myself and Josh Hoyt, and we have, and on our GameholePublishing.com site, you can see those adventures. That's really the those are the pillars that undergird the setting. And so as we're building out regions of this setting, that's when it became a little more sort of epiphany level for me. Like, why don't we run organized play in this setting that we know so well, and that we can also do it in a collaborative way, meaning that because it's a relatively new setting, of course, and while we have a lot of content, it doesn't, compared to the Forgotten Realms, and the mountains of content that exist for that, or really any other major published setting. When freelance authors write for us and want to write an adventure, they can create a town. They can create any NPC they want. They can create monsters. They can do all that stuff because, again, we don't have any of the limitations that first of all, a corporate setting has. And this will be fun. I think it's going to be great to be able to engage in this collaborative process of creating, building the Eastern Marches more fully, while telling great stories in season type settings as we go each year. We have season 1 sketched out. I'm right in the middle of writing episode 1, the first adventure, and so that's why we're doing it in the Eastern Marches, and that's why it's called Wardens of the Eastern Marches. Specifically, we have alliances that are in our program. There are 6 alliances. And that was one thing that I felt that the Adventures League kind of missed, because they have a similar structure, but it never became forward in the way the adventures were written or played. They had, their factions, of course.
Factions, yeah.
Yeah, and those were cool, and I liked them, but they didn't really have an impact on anything. They were more flavor.
It was really interesting at the beginning. That was the concept, right? So, like, the first event that we had at Gen Con, there were actually, the banners of the factions were hanging in the hall, and they tabulated which faction won, which was the Zentarum, right? And they were like, so it started that way, and somehow it just
Yeah, well, and I can kind of understand it's, first of all, a lot of work. If you're going to create an adventure, I'll just tell you, as a designer, writing an adventure, a 3-hour adventure, and having a main goal, a main objective, and then 6 side things that each alliance has something. Their characters have something meaningful to do, not just go pick up a thing. Just really to advance a story. It's tricky, and when you are writing content, especially relying on third-party people to do it, and you're disparate authors from all over the place, it's very difficult to keep a central concept like factions to really mean something. So I understand what happened, but it was disappointing to me, because I agree with you, Teos. It was awesome. Those banners. Early GameholeCon, we replicated those banners for our Adventure League. Yeah. I mean, they were cool. I love that. I thought the concept was so neat that you're part of a cabal beyond just being a D&D player, that meant something, that informed your character's actions. And that's very much what we want to try to accomplish here.
Cool. So tell us about the world itself. What if I were a new traveler and I arrived to the Eastern Marches, what would I kind of experience and see? I noted that in the campaign guide, there are frozen lands to the north. There's the Sapphire Sea to the east, Colmenas Mountains to the west. But is, what kind of world is this? What's it feel like?
Sure. Yeah, this is the Eastern Marches is part of a smaller part of a larger continent, and that's what you see when you pick up our guide, or if you go on to our site and look at it, the map you reference. That's what it is. It's focused on that portion of the larger continent, and we call it the Eastern Marches. But yeah, it is as you described. There is a frozen, colder. There's a northern hemisphere kind of analog. There is the history is that there was a magocracy located in the north that dominated this region for thousands of years. And that's why that's an area that's rife with ruins and abandoned watchtowers and things like that have all kinds of interesting things and all kinds of storytelling opportunities, bordered on the on the west by the Calamus Mountains, as you described, that is the second age in our setting is an orc kingdom that actually established the legal system in our setting, and also established all kinds of other institutions of learning and universities and so on. And that was the second age, and going forward in time. And now we're in the modern age where it is there is no central authority that governs the Eastern Marches. It's a series of, it was basically almost feudal in that they're separate city-states and just regional powers. And that is why the alliances are a thing. The alliances are the only overarching authority that have control, or not even that, can exert influence across the entirety of the Eastern Marches. So there's one that's for example, merchants, and one that is more of a nature conservation, the Golden Conservancy, and their aims are then can be expressed throughout the setting, because again, there is no central governmental authority. Larger cities in the south, tends to be a little more rural in the south, as well as the sort of the breadbasket of the setting, and then of course more mountainous to the west, and then this massive ocean, the Sapphire Sea, to the east. But it's so it's not heavily populated. There are a couple of bigger cities, but this is not like the Sword Coast for the Forgotten Realms in terms of just population density and stuff that's there.
Yeah. For organized play campaigns, there's the setting on this side, which people can get into and love. And then there's the sort of organized part of organized play in terms of how do you get into it? Where can you play? What sort of system do you have for advancement? Could you, even though you're still a year out from when it's going to start, have you thought about that or come to any conclusions?
Oh yeah. No, we're ready to. We could start now. I want the player's guide. This handout should hopefully answers most of those questions, at least in broad strokes. So we're going to start at GameholeCon 2025 is the first time that you'll actually play, and then it's open source. So anyone who wants to run this anywhere at a convention, a store, or anywhere else are absolutely free to do so. We'll have the adventures up for sale at a discrete price through our site, and likely through the usual suspects where you can buy things. We're still talking to Beyond. We're talking to Wizards about this. They're interested, but they're sort of in they have so many things that they're doing with third-party content right now. I don't know if we're going to be carried on Beyond or not, TBD. So once you start, then I guess you can bring a character from any. This is interesting. Mike Shea asked me the same question. Yeah. So what happens if you bring a character from some really obscure publication? Because what we say is that you can bring any 5e character just a published source. So obviously Ghostfire or a Kobold or of course Wizards or whatever you like, but just something that is been at least published, and it's had eyes on hopefully a professional game designer help build that character class. And this is going to be this is the tricky part of it, And what do we do when someone comes, in with a T-Rex ninja, laser beam bearing character, and that's undoubtedly going to happen. And so we're going to, it's going to be ultimately the DM fiat. They're going to say, look, that character just is. It's going to interrupt the fun of everyone else here, so that we can't allow that. With every presumption and leaning toward let everyone play what they want to play, please. As long as it's not interfering with others' fun at the table, that you don't have some sort of game-breaking character, you absolutely can play it in this system. That's. I guess we have a standard of reasonableness that we hope that everyone can appreciate and accept, and there's a reason for it. That as long as you're bringing a reasonable character to the game, you can play it. Advancement is after you play 1 3-hour scenario, you can choose to advance. You don't have to level up. So you can level relatively quickly if you want, but you can stay at any level you like for as long as you like. And there are, based on the alliances, very specific rewards that happen at each level. For example, at level 2, you get an alliance pin, and if you play it at GameholeCon, you'll actually get that pin. It's going to be, we're having campaign coins, are making them. I'll hopefully have them at the show to show off. The cool thing at other advancement piece is at level 10, you get an alliance signet ring, and and that's going to be again a physical ring that you can get. You come and play that'll have your alliance logo on it, and that has spells that are in your ring, and that you can cast as you like. There are 3 charges, and there's a lesser effect that you can use for a single charge 3 times, or there's one if you can a larger effect that you can burn all 3 charges at once to do something greater. And I think, again, that's the kind of stuff that we can do because we feel like doing it, and we can write our adventures in contemplation of that. So I think people are going to have a lot of fun with, and also like real magic certs. Man, I love the magic certs from AI, and I was really bummed when they went away. And I understand why they went away. It's just a lot of stuff, but we don't have that problem. So we have and I'll have some sample ones at the show, elaborate certs that we're going to do. People can stop by and take a peek at. So it's going to be all that. We're going to have log sheets and all the kind of cool support that helps with players and DMs. But we can, because we're, even though we'll have, dozens of tables running at the same time, we're not trying to, design something that's going to be run necessarily in, a different country. Hopefully they do it, but they'll have to do however much of that they want to do is going to be on them.
Gotcha. Yeah. Your question about your discussion about how they balance something like coupled press rules versus A5E versus Ghostfire is something I had really wondered about, because some players will do that so well and some players will be so unreasonable. And it reminds me of when I run games at PAX West or Emerald City Comic Con, my focus is on new players and casual players. And that's kind of what I'm always thinking about. And then someone will show up and say, hey, can I just play with my AL character? And what I always say to them is, yeah, bring any character you want, as long as you're not going to make your DM cry. And it's funny because 99% of the time they laugh, and every now and then just look at me like, and I'm like, do you have an unhittable AC? Is that fun for your DM? Do you always hit everything? Will no one at your table ever fail a saving throw? And sometimes they just kind of blink and they go, yeah, I know what you mean. And I'm like, we have pre-gens, and they'll be like, okay. But it's such a small number of people who they have to process that concept. What you mean it's not fun when I destroy everything the game hinges upon?
Yeah. It's and organized play is particularly susceptible to that. I think that part of the hobby attracts, min-maxers or whatever term we would like to apply to that. And, I think it's cool too, fiddling around with different builds and trying to figure out what does the most stuff, and where did that designer not think of the interaction between some ancestry feature with a class, and oh my gosh, now I have a barbarian that's unstoppable, whatever, and it's I get it. I understand the attraction, but for the sake of everyone's fun, we're try to, and we'll see. I guess we'll see I hope we don't have to be more legislative in that. I hope that it'll work this way. There's so many great products out there, so many great companies that are doing such good work, and my friends at Ghostfire and Kobold have also just given us license to use their monsters. So we, even if we are in the EL world, and Frog God, we have so much stuff that we get to use that are IP from other companies that we'll be using in our system. So it's not like we have to create. We have a bevy of our own creatures, but to be able to use all this stuff from these other great companies, it's going to be awesome, and it's certainly going to make the authorship a lot easier.
Nice, yeah, that's really exciting. That creates a lot of surprises for players who may not quite know, say, the A5E monsters or the Ghostfire monsters, how they can offer entirely different experiences. I think about I think it was Ghostfire that had the interesting boss monsters that had sort of stages of play that would I think that would be really neat for players to experience. That's really cool.
I mean, right? Isn't that the thing when you're a DM and you have players like, what's happening? I mean, isn't that really what we're trying to accomplish? Like, wait, what? That's a big part of it.
I have a question. The title, when I think of Eastern Marches, I think of the Western Marches kind of storied campaign where the idea was to go off and explore and sort of chart the wild, and session over session you were kind of exploring and covering new things. Is that part of it, or just does it happen to be a title that sounds like that?
No, it was, and it's funny. We weren't even thinking about the Western Marches when we did that, but it is basically a kind of a blank slate part of the world that is called the Eastern Marches because of recent colonization. Larger societies from across the Sapphire Sea have come, and that's what they've called it, the Eastern Marches, because it is largely undiscovered, other than some large coastal cities. So that's exactly why we call it that. But then I thought, oh man, I can't believe there's already this whole thing out there called the Western Marches that is going to hopefully not create too much confusion.
No, but I think that's neat because that is a fun concept. And on our Discord, it comes up from time to time where folks will want to talk about how neat that concept is and how much fun it can be to slowly unveil different parts of the world and fill out the blank spaces of the map. So that's neat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One of the joys of organized play is the creative energy of game masters and players being able to help build the setting. And you had talked about making towns and doing those sorts of things. How much thought have you put into letting DMs not just run the adventures, but make their own sorts of contributions or players along those lines?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. That's my hope is that traditionally, when anyone who has written for organized play, run games for organized play, or played games in organized play, and they've been told no, that we're going to try to turn as many of those into yeses as possible. As just a philosophy. So yes, absolutely. With DMs that are going to especially that are want to run chunks of a season of ours, and they have suggestions or ideas or thoughts on where to go left instead of right. Absolutely, we're very interested in that, and we hope that people get as invested and excited about it as we are with these stories. Because again, D&D is better when the more people that are involved in it, the more people that are writing it, and the more people that are contributing to a collective narrative. And especially when you're talking about world building, that's certainly what we hope happens. That people are interested in this setting and they want to contribute and want to create. We in my note to designers who are going to be working on this, like, you just go for it, man. Just write it, and as long as you're not altering things that are already on the map, we're going to almost certainly be good with it.
You mentioned kind of going back to an earlier thing, but you mentioned magic item certificates, and folks who are listening who have not done a lot of certain organized play may not be familiar with this, but right. So it's the idea that you get an actual paper certificate that says that you got a thing. And Adventurers League provided these, and you mentioned Mike Shea earlier. And one of the ones that he's brought up many times is he received the certificate for first to die at the D&D Open, the year that we brought back the D&D Open, and Shawn,
welcome, Mike.
Sean Merwin and I wrote that. And Mike was just so happy to have had his character die, right? And he got a special certificate. I just pulled it up that allowed him to get a benefit in addition to marking this as a story thing that happened, right? Because of the fact that he had died from this. And maybe talk a bit about, like, what kind of certificates, when you think about magic item certificates or rewards, what are you trying to do with these? How are you approaching them in the campaign?
Yeah, that's why just that. We love the stuff, right? And so these are going to be 3.5 by 5 cards, cardstock, well printed things. We selected that size based on common binder sleeves. So these can be housed in a binder, 6 per page easily. I still have my ale binder, and I was just looking through it the other day, and some of those, oh man, I just forgot about some of the great certs that I have from, 2016 or whenever that was, and before. It's so neat to have that, and so we have this usual kind of prohibitions about how many magic items you could have active at once, just typical sort of 5e stuff. But that's it. So you have you actually have a physical, tangible thing that represents your magic item. Everything from prosaic things, from potions to +1 weapons to all kinds of other interesting things. And that whole concept of weird either recognition for something that you did or a one-off thing that's specific to a story is pretty cool. And being able to have one of those, certainly I loved having them as a player. I think our players are going to enjoy that too. And again, these are going to be all open source. So if people want to use these, we're going to share, they can absolutely have them. Because so you can do these. And if several game stores have already reached out to us interested in wanting to do this. Amazing. I can't even believe we're just not even off the ground yet and they're interested. And I think it speaks to that. This is a really a needed thing in our hobby, the accessibility of folks being able to come in and sit down and within a few minutes playing with strangers. I think it's just an amazing idea considering where we were, all of us who were in this hobby for more than a few years, where it was not a thing that not that long ago, really.
How do you see the storyline in the adventures propagating? Do you see them kind of like it premieres at Gamehole and then it comes out? And do you have a thought of what your cadence is? Like kind of how many adventures, where are they going out to? How do you get them?
So what we're going to do for this season 1 in 2025, we'll have 10 adventures and then an epic. So whereas the classic epic, where the multi-table, the whole hall are together accomplishing a thing at the end, and Alan Patrick's actually writing that for us this 25. Alan's been such a good bud for he's End of Everything, my co-author for that. So we've been working together on all kinds of stuff now. And so he's been very helpful with that. So he's going to be writing the epic. So 10 adventures that takes you through, I can't remember the exact array. I think we have 4, 1 through. So the Adventures League was built on tiers. We do 2. They're a little more refined, smaller bites. So ours are 1 through 3. And so 3 level 2 instead of 5. I think that makes it easier. I always struggled with that as a DM when I had, 2 5th level characters and 3 first. How can I really make this a cool experience? So I think making these tiers a little smaller will help with that. And so then with our concept of you can level after one adventure, you could certainly at one show get your signet ring, if you wanted to, if you're so inclined to get to 10th level. And then the epic will be for all levels. So that's going to be all done. That'll be at GameholeCon 2025 and out it goes. Wow. And so at least initially our focus is going to be content for each year, one at a time. Now we'll see to what extent other conventions and shows are interested and, want to create content and absolutely interested in having that conversation and, want to inculcate, encourage it any way we can. But that's where we are because I just don't know.
Yeah. If someone's at a gaming store listening to this, right, they can also reach out to you, right, and run it there, which is really cool. Because I think gaming stores are also really looking for a source of energy for their play these days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's the plan. We have, we're going to be formally hiring folks here, after the show. We're going to start getting, the 10. I'm writing the first one, and I think Josh is writing one. I think Royce is writing one. But beyond that, we have a bunch of slots that we're going to hire authors for. And like the way, I'm very proud of what we did, what we continue to do. So this is also something I should say. We're not killing our Adventure League program at all. We will continue to produce great content. I hope, through our border kingdoms, and we have a really great writing room. Joe Alfano has done a wonderful job with that. I'm very proud of the fact what we pay our authors, what we pay our editors, and that we take care of the folks who work for us. We're certainly going to do that with Wardens as well. But yeah, we're still going to continue to create AL content as well.
Right. That's fantastic to hear. Very cool.
Yeah. Let's switch gears just for a second to Gamehole Con. We know that as of this recording, it is next week on Wednesday. 10th anniversary, am I right? Or
this is 11th. This is number
11th. 10th was last year.
Yep.
What do you have to highlight this year about what's going on at Gamehole Con 11?
Oh man, Shawn, I'm so glad you asked me because this is the biggest deal in the world, and the 50th anniversary of D&D is making me just shake all year long. I can't believe it. I'm just so amazed that we are here. I can't believe that D&D is 50 years old. It must mean that I'm older than 50, which is true. So I can't believe it, and I love it. So lots of people are doing all kinds of cool things for the anniversary. I mean, there've been all kinds of stuff, and so. When I was thinking about what could our show do, and especially in character, keeping with our character of what our GameholeCon's about, when I think of D&D, I think the way to best celebrate it is to play the game. It's cool to watch a live stream and watch celebrities play. That's absolutely great. And to, it was cool to help with the museum at Gen Con. John Peterson and Bill Meinhardt and I put on the 50th anniversary artifact museum at Gen Con, and that was really cool, sharing this sort of stuff that I have sitting behind me here. The historical relics of our hobby. But I think truly the best way is to have the game be played by as many people as possible. And so that's what for me, the highlight of the show will be our D&D celebration games, 1 hour D&D games, 5th edition games, and advanced Dungeons and Dragons games. That are going to be super immersive, going to be in its own special area that my partners in True Dungeon are helping me with a dungeon setting that is going to be in the lobby. In that special room will be 4 tables, Dwarven Forge set up on each table, modern Dwarven Forge for the 5e games, resin Dwarven Forge for the AD&D games, miniatures for both. There'll be lead painted miniatures for the AD&D games, modern WizKid miniatures for the 5e games. Puzzles. There'll be tactile puzzles for each game that Jeff Martin designed, my friend from True Dungeons. Each one will have its own puzzle to solve. In a 1 hour game, it's going to be third level characters for both. Lots of there, and Teos, you're kind enough to run some of it. I think the adventures themselves are compelling enough for in a 1 hour setting, which is challenging for experienced players, but it's also designed to accommodate, to be a true learn to play. So you have never played this game before, either AD&D or 5e, and sit down and play it, and you'll be fine, because we really worked hard on our progenitor characters to make them, easy to understand and have all the relevant information there on the sheet, so you don't have to look stuff up. But we'll have spell cards there for the 5e game. We'll have that kind of stuff that we need to make it easier for you guys that are kind enough to run these games. And so that's my hope, is that, and they're almost completely sold out. I think there are 400 seats available in each, and they're almost all gone. I think we're down to one has 10 and one has 8 or something like that. So it's going to be awesome. I just can't wait to see people, rolling through these 1 hour adventures and, being able to go home with a cool, cardstock pre-generated character, and hopefully some real good, cool memories of being able to play this immersive game in Dwarven Forged with great DMs. Man, do we have good DMs who volunteered to play this to run it for us. It's awesome. So that's, for me, the highlight. There'll be lots of other cool stuff, but that's what I'm really excited about.
Yeah. One that I'm excited about is you've got a number of seminars that make me think of the Gen Con series, which you were a part of, where Peter Atkinson brought teams in to talk about the creation of each edition, and you're mirroring that. You've got these different sessions where you've got, the 4E main leads talking about what it was like to build 4th edition. You've got Peter Atkinson there talking about 3rd edition, and all these different, seminars. Can you record those? I feel like they should be recorded.
Yeah, I feel like they should be too, and I'm going to try. I'm definitely going to try to. We have 2 sort of streaming areas as well, and so we have a lot of tech on hand. And I hope that that's on this week. So we'll explore that, because you're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, how many more times are we going to get to have a real 2E panel, right?
It's a treasure, and it's amazing what we learn. I think for the hobby itself And it's not just even factoids, but just perspectives, right? When to understand what people understood at a given time. Like I was watching one of those shows that Gen Con did where Steve Winter talks about the knowledge around broken characters and what players do when they have too many options. And if you look at 2E, you might ask, did designers know this? And so it's like, okay, they did. They did really understand this. They knew this was a problem, and they were trying to balance the business side with the, you give players too many options, they'll break the game for DMs. And so it's just great to capture that. And yeah, I'm really, so that's something I'm really looking forward to, are these seminars. There are a number of them that I will try to make.
Yeah. And all credit to Mike Merles for honchoing that. He did a great job wrangling everyone and put that all together. So, thank you, Mike, for that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a growing dealer hall. Every year, it seems like there's a few more options and more companies coming to show off their stuff. The show is growing at a manageable rate, which was great. Now, maybe it doesn't feel manageable anymore, but from where you started to where it is now, it just seems like such a great show for people that want great games, great panels to see all the stuff. It's all there.
It's really good.
Very kind of you to say, but yes, that we try to stay in front of it. It's not to be reactive with our growth, to anticipate it because it's going to happen. And we're already up this year about 1,000 attendees over last year. And fortunately, we took steps in our volunteer structure and how we do things. For you'll see if you will call, we look a little different and things like that. We're constantly tweaking things because what I just cannot stand is having the experience affected by crowd size. We're going to do something before it, we'll never get to the point where it's, a queue kind of show, right? Or an overcrowded vendor hall where you can't even get through, or someone with the backpack clears you out and stuff. You just can't have it. I've lived, I've gone to show. I grew up going to shows, and that's everything we do is informed by mine and the guys' experiences at shows, what we like and what we didn't like. So that's I very much appreciate that, and the real gaming experience. That's our show's about gaming. It's the common game, and there fan cons are great, and there are more industry things where you get together and have more mixers and great. But ours really is about sitting on a table and playing these games that we love, and that's what we're always going to have that as the focus. And as far as other publishers, you're absolutely right. It's cool to have Catalyst Labs be, come in so as heavily as they are. A big part of the Asmodee leadership are coming this year to check us out, and so things are, keep going like that because I think we have enjoy a good reputation in the industry for what we do and how we do it. So it's pretty neat to see. I was never the goal. This was, believe me, man. We were just happy that it wasn't just us standing in a hotel back in 2013.
Well, it's been well
people actually came.
Yeah, you've had a very thoughtful way of going about it, and every year it's been a great experience.
Appreciate it.
All right, Teos, any last questions for Alex before we let him go?
I both wanted Gamehole to be tomorrow, and I want to play my first Easter Marches tomorrow, and also I'd be happy if I had another 2 weeks of planning. So that's usually the sweet spot to say that I'm very excited for the show. No further questions, Your Honor.
All right. Well, I feel the same way, and I look forward to taking that short little flight over to Madison in a week and 2 days to say hello to everyone at Gamehole Con. And Alex, thank you so much for sitting down with us and sharing some of your information.
No, joy as always, and I can't wait to see you guys in person next week.
All righty. Hey, it was great to talk to Alex. Super excited about that No Organized Play campaign, and very excited to be going to Gamehole Con very soon. What do you think, Teos?
Yeah, I'm feeling a lot better now that I spent the weekend preparing for Gamehole, so I'm in good shape to run people through a trap death-filled dungeon. That'll be really neat.
I am doing your 2-hour thing. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm in one of the sessions that you're doing, so I expect to die horribly many times, and maybe my character too.
I will do my best to murder you educationally for the love of knowledge.
Excellent. And speaking of education, we couldn't bring this show to you without the help of our supporters. Who are our supporters? They are some wonderful people who have gone to patreon.com/masteringdnd and given us their support. These include Master of Dungeon supporters. There are Master of Realm supporters who are listed in our show notes. And then there are Master of the Multiverse patrons. They get a shout out right now. Go from the bottom up. Zach Types, Walt Winfrey, Chris Webster, Javier Waziak, Jason Ward from Accidental Cyclops Games, Graham Ward, James Walton, Marcelo de Velasquez, The Valiant DM, Joe Tyler, Tres, Jeremy Talaman from the D&D and TV podcast, Talos the Stormlord, Josh and Luanica of the Tabletop Journeys podcast, Krishna Simosa, Andy Shockney, Chance Russo at Drago Russo, Runner Rick, Ozymandias Rex, Pugnus, Vladimir Prunner from Croatia, Robert Pasley, Post Fiction RPG Audio, Frog Prince at Tentacles Squelching Wetly, Phil Wirt from the Philadelphia Area Gaming Expo, Mighty Zeus, Tom Nelson, creator of the Deck of Player Safety, Falcon Neal, Shawn Molly, John Mickey, Trey McLemore, Ann B. Meyer of Fantasy Cartography, Eric Mengi, the Mathemagician, Paul Mata, Chad Lench, Jim Klingler, aka DM Prime Mover, Brian King, the Mighty Jerd, Mark and Mary's Gaming Compound, Sean Hurst, Ben Heisler and Paige Lightman, Scott Fitzgerald Gray at Insane Angel Studios, James Fisher, Andy Edmonds at Nerdronomicon.com, Will Doyle, Evil John, Calvin Bridges Avalos, Merrick Blackman, Steve Bissonette, Dave Bastianson, Craig Bailey, Lou Anders of Lazy Wolf Studios, and Keith Ammon of The Monsters Know What They're Doing. Thank you all so very much for your support. And again, if you go to patreon.com/masteringdnd, you can also support us, and we thank you for that. How can you help us out even if you can't become a patron? Well, you can leave us a review. Leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Leave us a review wherever you listen to this podcast, or go to YouTube. Find one of our videos and do the like, subscribe, happy commenting sort of thing, and we appreciate that as well. Teos, where are you at?
Ooh, I am at alphastream.org. From there, you can find all my things.
Mm-hmm. And I am on the socials at Shawn Merwin, and the podcast is also on the socials at Mastering DND. So we've gone through news, we've taken questions, we know all about Gamehole Con and Eastern March. I almost said Western Marches. Eastern Marches. What are we going to do now?
Well, clearly we got to find the most game-breaking combinations across 2024 D&D, 2014 D&D, Tales of the Valiant, Grim Hollow, you name it. We just got to come up with the most T-Rex horde of pixies turned into T-Rex level stuff.
That reminds me, I have to make some really broken stuff to put into this new book, and then I'm going to play the character. I'm ready.
Planning.
Yeah, always thinking, just not well.